Over the past few weeks, I've heard from some of the smartest medical minds in America about both the nature of this hideous virus and the most promising treatments that are currently under investigation. Because other countries have been dealing with this longer and on a larger scale, some of them are ahead of us on finding the best drug treatments. On Monday, I told you about two of them: the anti-malarial drug chloroquine and its sister, hydroxychloroquine, manufactured by Sanofi Labs. Now, today the issue was brought up at the White House briefing by our own John Roberts.
Dr. Burke, French researchers have had some luck with hydroxychloroquine in shortening the duration of disease. Is that something that might be in the arsenal of therapeutics here in the United States?
I think we're exploring every one of those issues. There is things that look really good in cell culture against the virus that may look good in small animals and then don't have an impact in humans. Of course, there's always anecdotal reports, and we're trying to figure out how many anecdotal reports equal real scientific breakthroughs.
Well, I'm not sure what she meant by anecdotal, but the renowned French researcher and infectious disease specialist, Professor Didier Raoult, was tasked by the French government to examine possible cures for COVID-19. And yesterday, he described his results as promising. Good news. In a video posted on the internet, he said that the first batch of 24 COVID-19 patients that he had treated with the drug chloroquine had seen a rapid and effective speeding up of their healing process and a sharp decrease in the amount of time they remain contagious. Yes. Well, China and South Korea, the countries hardest hit with COVID-19, they've already developed guidelines for physicians who are prescribing the use of chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine as treatment options. It's not just in animals, and it's not just in a lab. Chloroquine was chosen after China did several screening rounds of thousands of existing drugs. Chloroquine is undergoing further trials in more than 10 hospitals there now. Whatever the president has to do to cut red tape and bring clear treatment options such as this, and also preventatives to Americans, he needs to do it. And I bet it's coming soon. Which brings me to my next point: demanding total cooperation and openness from China, or else. In a pandemic, it's essential that our health experts work cooperatively with other countries and that we all share data and findings about the disease as we try to stop its spread. All over the world, wonderful and brave doctors, I've been able to talk to some of them, who are treating COVID-19 patients, are posting their findings online, and you can read some of them in even chat rooms where the doctors are talking to each other. It's fantastic. But we need the Chinese government to give us total and complete access to all their scientific data, including, by the way, the findings of doctors who first studied and discovered the virus. Some of that information was apparently destroyed. Well, we want to find it. We want it back. We want to know everything about patient zero. We want to know everything about the true recovery rates, the true mortality rates, including those who were locked in their apartments and left to die in Wuhan. And if China isn't willing to work with us, think about this: in defeating this pandemic and ensuring that something like this never happens again. Look what happened to the American people today. Their stock holdings, their 401ks, many people losing their jobs. Think about this. If they're not operating in total transparency regarding this disease, then we have to ask ourselves why we want to continue to be integrated with them at all on any issue. We have nothing against the Chinese people, just like we didn't have anything against the Russian people during the Cold War. But President Xi and his Politburo have to come clean here, or we need to reconsider, or consider, frankly, taking severe measures against Beijing. We need a new industrial policy made in the USA all the way. If they don't come clean, we have to revoke China's most favored nation status for trade. We have to ban Chinese investment in the US. We have to strictly limit Chinese travel to the United States. And by the way, forget that second phase of the trade deal. We have to add tariffs. Well, that should get their attention, don't you think? Not only has China thus far refused to allow our top medical officials access to all the data, all the hospitals, all the premier researchers, they're kicking out our journalists who are actually there trying to report the truth about what happened going back to November, December, January, and what didn't happen. The New York Times reporting that the Chinese government cast its expulsion of the journalist as necessary to defend Beijing against what it perceived as an ideological campaign by the United States to impose its values on China. Yeah, the value of truth. And yet, despite all this, despite what's happened, despite how awful this has gotten for people all around the world, and of course here, somehow, there are American journalists who are still fretting about China's feelings.
Why do you keep calling this the Chinese virus? Why do you keep using this? A lot of
It
people
comes
say
from
it's
China.
racist.
It's not racist at all, no, not at all. It comes from China. That's why. It comes from China.
A person at the White House used the term
Just a term.
Kung flu. My question is, do
Kung
you think
flu.
that's wrong? Kung flu.
In talking about China, you've been very clear about who you think is to blame or where the origin to blame for this virus is.
Not think, no. I don't think. I know where
Right.
it came from. It comes from China, and it's not a question about that.
Good for Trump. Oh, and when we're not worried about the virus's nomenclature, we apparently want to help the economy of the country responsible for our national nightmare.
Look, China's paying us billions and billions of dollars in tariffs, and there's no reason to do that. But we're getting billions of dollars a year from tariffs from China, and I can't imagine Americans asking for that.
Yeah, well, the question was, people are telling you to take your tariffs off China now. Shouldn't you do this, given that? Unbelievable. Now, look at how much time was lost because China covered it up at the end of last year, covered up the virus. They threatened doctors. They refused to allow independent medical teams in to assess the situation. In its handling of COVID-19, and this is going to sound tough, but China has blood on its hands. One recent study found that if China had implemented its control measures a week earlier, it could have prevented 67% of all cases there. Implementing the measures 3 weeks earlier, from the beginning of January, would have cut the number of infections to 5% of the total. And yet, the WHO wants everyone to think that, what, we're supposed to fawn over China's containment efforts? That's ridiculous. We cannot sit by and let our people have their lives threatened, our entire economy devastated, not by a contagion that originated in China, a country that still refuses to allow the NIH unfettered access. I was thinking about this today, first of all, how blessed I am to be able to have a job and keep working during all of this, and to have all of you watching every night, have my health and my family's health. But I thought about the millions and millions of Americans who work their butts off every day and see their dream of having a retirement someday, putting their kids through college, vanish because of this virus. Much, if not all of this, could have been avoided if China had only been forthcoming from day one. My friends, this cannot stand. And that's the angle.